The Joe Rogan Experience.
There seems to be a lot of discussion now about police brutality, but there's not a lot of discussion about the psychological troubles and the difficult path of being a police officer.
Yeah.
And appreciation for the people that have to do that job. All this defunding the police talk scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Because I see what's going on right now in New York City, and it's a goddamn shooting gallery. It's crazy. And the reason why is because the police officers have no trust in the mayor. They want to quit. They don't feel like they get any respect. They feel like they have all been lumped in with this one murderous cop from Minneapolis.
Right.
Now they're all bad cops, and there's a license to call them bad cops, scream terrible things at them when they've done nothing wrong, when they're just there to protect and serve. A lot of them are good people, the vast majority. So when you're seeing this giant uptick in murders in New York City and giant uptick in shootings, and then you still have that dipshit of a mayor calling for the defunding of the police, like, my God. Like, I know so much of the things they say are just political because they just want to appeal to their base.
Yeah.
And there's so many people out there that have this very narrow-minded perspective. They just have blinders on. And their idea, it's like racial justice, social justice, defund the police. It's like this mantra that they have to say with no depth to it. They don't understand the consequences of saying such a thing or implementing such a thing. Now we're seeing a call for police action, because there's a lot of people, a lot of community groups, a lot of people that are community leaders that are in these communities that are just experiencing unprecedented gun violence and crime. And now they're saying, we got to do something about this. So they're trying to reinstate some of these policies that they had pulled before. I am hoping that through this, what we had talked about with training and with funding the police more, instead of defunding the police, train them better, fund them more. You obviously need police. This idea that you don't need police, are criminals just going to go away? Like, is crime going to go away? You know, we have a problem.
Yeah.
We have an enormous number of people, and out of that enormous number of people, there is a certain percentage of them that will victimize other people. They will steal, they will kill, and if they don't get caught, then you develop a culture of crime. And then you develop a thing where you basically have what's going on in Mexico, where the cartels have more power than the police, which is a terrible situation. If you have that in individual locations like in New York City, if all of a sudden these criminal gangs develop more gun power, more support of the community, they have more people than police officers, you've got a giant problem. And the actual peaceful citizens are the ones that are going to be in trouble. And all those people that are out there protesting that think they're immune from it because they're the ones saying defund the police, hey, man, they'll fucking rob you too. They'll shoot you too. Like, you don't understand humans and you don't understand violence. And so this utopian world that they're trying to push, like defund the police, we're going to refund, we're going to put that money into the community and everything's going to be fine. It's not going to be fine. You need to fund the police more. You need to train the police better. We need more oversight. And we need to recognize that this is a time where everybody's got to come together on this. And we got to figure out what's wrong, fix what's wrong, recognize that there's some problems. But you can't blame all cops, and you can't say defund the police, because that's nonsense. That is a silly, like a version of life that it's not real.
Yeah.
You need good cops, better cops. Are you saying we need to get rid of bad cops? Yes, definitely. I think everybody agrees with that. How do you do that? That's where the question starts.
Right.
And training them more. Like this idea that you can't spend 20% of the time training them. Well, if you did spend 20% of the time training them and there was a lot less crime because of it and the interactions with people were much better, wouldn't that just be overall better? Is that an impossible task? I mean, how much money goes into the police department? Are you telling me you can't add 20% to that and train them more? I bet you can.
Yeah.
And I bet you could find it financially beneficial. I would see overall, if you could reduce crime that way and reduce the animosity between citizens and the police, wouldn't that be better for everybody?
It would. And I agree. I agree with you. I mean, on the defunding thing, you know, I think, and you've had other people say this too, and you know this, I'm not saying anything amazing here, that like it means different things to different people.
Right.
And I wholeheartedly agree. The folks who think defunding means like just get rid of them, Like that's silly. What's your plan B? What do you do?
I don't think they really mean that.
I don't understand
saying
what
it.
happens next, and I haven't heard anybody articulate. So then what? And again,
there is no then what. That's why no one has a then what.
Those the emails I get that talk the headlines. I saw one yesterday or the day before that in Minneapolis now there are groups of citizens banding together, armed citizens banding together to patrol the streets for crime. And I thought, oh my God.
Exactly.
Oh boy, that's a shit show waiting to happen. Because then you're going to have community members shooting people, and then they're charged with
They're charged with murder.
It's a horrific thought, and I can't quite imagine like that. So I completely understand the anger and the frustration, because you're right, we don't need bad cops. There's nothing worse than the person you call to protect you and to help you when you're in an emergency doing the wrong thing and doing harm.
Right.
That we don't need or want that. And I wholeheartedly agree that more training and the right type of training and spending that time, because I also think that the training gives you access to see where people are and if they are on a good path or if they are that problematic person.
Oh, you see what kind of character they have too if you test them during this training.
So if we're seeing them on a regular basis and pulling them out and giving them the tools that they need, then absolutely I think that is an exceptional thing to do. That was part of what your podcast with Jocko just blew me away with the way he talked about. And the other thing that sort of has gotten lost is this whole idea of the interaction with the community, with community-oriented policing, and it's exactly what Jocko was talking about when he was talking about being overseas, and I think he was talking about Petraeus and the order of, you don't just roll up in your tank and cruise through. You stop and you talk and you humanize yourself and you engage with these, with the folks here, and you let them know that you're here to protect and to serve, and you connect with them, and that helps both the community citizens and the soldiers. That's the same thing that we're wanting here at home in this country, that your police are supposed to be your supporters and your resources and the people that you trust and are connected to. And that is what community-oriented policing is. It's not a new idea.
Right.
It's been around for decades. But we somehow still don't have that going on now. It's still, what seems like everything in society is now, it's us versus them. It's the police versus the community, instead of we are a community together and we need to work with each other to keep this place safe and to understand what the biggest problems are, what are the citizens' concerns. And it isn't easy to do. It's not an easy thing to do, but it works. Yeah.
I go to a tactical range where they teach you how to shoot handguns, and the guy who teaches me was telling me you would be stunned at how inept some of these cops are that come here. He goes, they literally barely know how to shoot a gun. And I wouldn't believe him, except I've seen so many cops that are so fat and so sloppy. And I'm like, how are you going to defend yourself? Like, the idea of you serving and protecting, like, dude, if someone throws you on the ground, you're not even getting up. Like, how does that happen? How do they now have standards for, like, being able to shoot a gun, knowing how to handle it properly, being accurate, being consistent with your training, and also physical fitness? Like, that's the job of a police officer, is dealing occasionally with violent criminals. When you have no capacity to defend yourself, how are you able to help people?